We get some really strange feedback if we have too many microphones on. If there's opposition present, after the applicant comes up, the board will hear from those parties opposed to a case, and then after the opposition speaks, the applicant will have a period for rebuttal. The board in their rules provide cases without opposition. Applicants have 10 minutes to present their testimony. To the right of the table is that clock that's there on the shelf, and that'll be your keep track of how much time you have left. The clock will stop for any questions that the board has of you. That time's just for testimonial time. If there's opposition to a case, then both sides get 15 minutes to present their testimony. So that's not per speaker, but that's per side. So if you have multiple folks who want to talk, please work out who's coming up and how long they're going to speak ahead of time. All section numbers I referred to today come directly from the Metropolitan Code of Law in Title 17. Title 17 was adopted by the Metro Council and became effective January 1st, 1998, and applies to the entire jurisdiction of Metro government. I'll introduce and make a part of the record the zoning code, but I will not read individual sections unless the applicant or opposition requests that I read those sections. The zoning code requires that these proceedings be taped. Therefore, it's imperative anyone wishing to address this board, please come forward and identify yourself and make your presentation. It should be noted that anyone is found to have presented false or misleading testimony to this board that may have affected this board's decision, any approval may be revoked at a later date by means of a show cause hearing. The board will go through all cases set for public hearing today, and after each case, the board will then discuss before you and then vote on that case. The board's vested to act on the cases before us today as outlined in Section 1740-180 of the Metro Code of Law. The code requires that 4 members be present to constitute a quorum. The code also requires that you have 4 affirmative votes to grant your request. I do expect 5 to be here. Currently we have 4. We do have a quorum. So cases heard by these 4 members, the votes to grant must be unanimous. If you do not get all 4 votes, we will automatically reset your case for the next available public hearing, which is April the 18th is when that case will be scheduled again. So in the event of a tie vote or a failure to get 4 votes on new cases today, we'll automatically reset your case for public hearing and re-advertise that case for you. In the event that we have 5 members that hear your case and you fail to get 4 votes today, your case stays on our agenda for the next 30 days. And the vote was what we call a tie vote. The members who participated are permitted to change their votes. The members who were not present are allowed to watch the proceedings on Channel 3, review the paper record, and then become eligible to participate at the next hearing. If they choose not to vote, they don't have to participate. But if they choose to, they can then cast a vote. That case will stay, those tied cases will stay on our agenda for the next 30 days. So however many meetings we have in the next 30 days, if no one changes their vote or no one comes in and becomes eligible to participate and you end up with some vote, maybe 3, 4, and 2 against, your case will be deemed denied by failure to obtain 4 votes by operation of law. The applicant or any aggrieved property owner can request a rehearing within 60 days of today's public hearing. Further, any applicant or aggrieved property owner may appeal this board's decision to Chancery or Circuit Court within the same 60-day period. But after 60 days, this board's decision is final and no further action may be taken. If you are an applicant and your case is approved today, you do have to come get the permit for which you've applied. You can begin working on those permits beginning on Monday morning in the Codes Office where you filed your appeal. You have 2 years from today's date to pick up your permit, and if you fail to do so, you will have to come back here and request an approval of your case as a new case. Mr. Chairman, I submit that all cases were filed in proper order. All applicants were notified by certified mail as required by the code, and a legal ad was published in the Tennessean. But before I begin my other announcements, the board does allow elected officials to address the board before we begin today. I do see Councilman Pridemore with us. Any other elected officials present? Councilman, would you like to address the board at this time?
First statement he asked us to do.
Just 1 second, I'll make sure. Now that my fourth member's here, we're live.
Okay.
So I want to be sure that Channel 3 folks are on, and they are. So
I'm ready. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the board. I'm here. I'm representing Council District 9, which is Madison, and the Boulevard Seventh-day Adventist Church, which is in my district. They have filed for an appeal to a signage case, which I'm in favor of. And I'd like to say just a couple words. One of the main reasons we may be here is because prior to, let's say, several months ago, they would not have needed some changes made because there was a resolution or a code change of zoning that I initiated right next door, or 2 doors down from them, that changed the zoning of a particular piece of property for just, which is it went from CS to MUL. And so that may have been one of the deciding factors as to why you may have needed to review this case, from what my understanding is. But that was a housekeeping measure, and it was nothing that really, it had been CS for many years, and the owners just wanted to do that just to kind of stay in tune with the rest of the community. And in fact, I have gotten some information from the owners of that property. They're in favor of this proposal that is before you today. And also, I have some letters of support from Madison Chamber of Commerce, and also from several businesses that are adjacent to this property. And also, I'd like to state, which they will probably mention to you, is this is on State Route 45, which there are already, that I know of, 3 other existing signs of the same nature on that State Route 45 corridor there. So I'd just like to allow you to know my opinion that I'm in favor of this legislation, and that that maybe some of the cause may have been as a result of my zoning change. So thank you very much for listening.
And Councilman, you want to, if you'd like, I can take those letters from you that you have.
Okay.
And I'll pass those around. And you've got time before the case comes up, too, if you...
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think, are those letters in there?
We did receive a couple letters here in the last hour or so.
Okay, well, that may be these here. There's 2, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I got both of those.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Thank you. Okay. Any other elected officials present? Okay, seeing none, the board does have a consent agenda, and prior to today's hearing, a board member reviews the record in today's cases, and if they feel that the applicant has met the criteria for which they've requested their relief from this board, they recommend the case to the other members of the board for a consent agenda. I'll now call into the record those cases recommended for approval on consent. And if you're here in opposition and opposition only, please raise your hand. The first case recommended for consent agenda is case 2013-23, Ms. Joni Ward at 4029 Wallace Road, requesting a variance in side setback to construct an detached garage. Anyone here in opposition to case 23 on Wallace Road? Mr. Chairman, seeing none, the topography in this case necessitates a need for variance. Additionally, this case has been to this board in 2010 and was approved for the identical plan. Ms. Ward's 2 years had elapsed before she was able to construct it, and she's seeking reapproval of that case. The next case recommended for the consent agenda is case 2013-24, Price Harrison, the appellant and owner of the property at 2415 Crestmore Road, requesting a variance in the reduction of the landscape buffer width. Additionally, there's also a perimeter landscaping in that as well. Is anyone here in opposition to case 24 present on Crestmore Road? Mr. Chairman, seeing none, the Planning Commission recommends approval of this variance, as well as the Urban Forester has reviewed the plan and is happy with the plan as well. And the narrowness of the lot is the hardship necessitated by Ms. Jones. Actually, I forgot to mention that Ms. Jones reviewed today's consent agenda. And finally, case recommended for consent, case 2013-26, Mr. William Mitchell, 4116 Media Street, requesting an addition to a non-conforming structure in R7.5 to construct an addition to his detached garage. Is there anyone here in opposition to case 26 present on Media Street? Mr. Chairman, seeing none, this it being an addition to a non-conforming use, this addition is more conforming to the code than the existing garage. It actually sits further away from Wyoming than the current garage, and we had received no letters in opposition to that case. That is the consent agenda as recommended by Ms. Jones.
We have the recommendation for items 2013-23, 2013-24, and 2013-26 be put on consent agenda. Any comments? Second?
Second.
Have a second. I want to add on stipulation on number 23, if we no objection from the board, that have to be remain open and not enclosed as a.
Ms. Ward, are you agreeable for the structure to remain open? Yes, ma'am. As opposed to enclosing.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. With the addendum, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
If you're here for cases 23, 24, and 26, you have been approved. 23 with the condition to remain open. You folks are free to go. You're also free to hang out with us for the remainder of the case. I do have two other preliminary items before we get to the only case on today's agenda. First, let me deal with the cases on page 3. These are tied up on votes. Procedurally, these two cases on Cahal are at their final. Today is the 30th day of these tied vote cases. In this, as I talked about at the beginning, tied vote cases stay on our agenda for 30 days. And any member who participated in the case is allowed to change their vote. So I'll call the motion for both case 11 and 12 or to grant the street setback variances in each of those. Motion made by Mr. Whitson, who's not present today. Mr. Ewing, I believe, seconded those. Mr. Ewing, Ms. Jones voted to affirm. Do you wish to change your votes in the case?
No.
Okay. Mr. King, Mr. Taylor voted in opposition to the case. Do either of you gentlemen wish to change your votes in the case?
No.
Okay. Procedurally, these cases 11 and 12 are denied by operation of law, and an appropriate order will be entered for those. And then finally, there has been a deferral request on case 2013-22. Mr. Brent Diaz, you present, sir? Yes, I see you. Are there any folks present on case 22 in opposition to the case? Mr. Chairman, I don't see any. Mr. Diaz contacted me, and generally, as a course, I, as your staff, board's passed have given me permission to just defer it administratively. It came in this week. We'd received quite a few letters in opposition. I didn't feel comfortable with granting it before we got here today. Mr. Diaz has wanted some additional time to meet with the opposition. I think it was a bit unexpected. Would you concur with that? He'd like some additional time to meet with them and recommends the deferral. How long, sir, are you?
Just the next meeting.
To the next meeting. That would be the 21st of March.
We need a motion to.
Yes, sir, indeed.
So moved.
Have a motion to defer till what date?
21st of March.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oop, I didn't get a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Ms. Jones, second. Let's try that vote again.
All in favor, say aye.
Thank you. That case is deferred until March 21st. Mr. Diaz, that case will be heard at the end of the agenda that day. And no new notice will leave this office, so please spread the word that it's 21st. Thank you. And those folks who cases 23, 24, and 26, your cases are approved. And with that, we'll deal with today's case on the agenda, the case 25 that Councilman Pridemore is here for. And the applicants, I believe, are present. If you guys would like to come forward, any other parties in support of case 25? Okay. Any other parties opposed to case 25? The rest of y'all just sitting here visiting. Okay.
It's,
4, okay.
Yeah, it's.
Not wanting to speak, I understand. If the
Yeah,
applicant...
can we see a show of hands as who's here in favor of this sign?
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. The applicant, if you'll come forward along with any other parties you'd like to, you can come on up to the table here. I'm going to go over a few photographs and explain to the board members the variance that's you're requesting today.
Did everyone have one of these? Yes, thank you.
Okay. Again, let me call for as far as timing. Any opposition present? I did not see any for this case. Applicants, you'll have 10 minutes to present. Let me go through our portion first, and then I'll turn it over to you guys. The subject property is located here in red, which you see on the screen. This is Seventh-day Adventist Church there on Old Hickory Boulevard and State Route 45 in Madison. It is zoned CS on this property. The councilman did allude to a rezoning housekeeping that occurred, and that was on the adjoining property, was it not, Councilman, here? The use out there was CS. It was a non-conforming apartment building. It is now a conforming apartment building with the rezoning. It did create a partial need for this variance. There is additionally an apartment complex across State Route 45 where you see my cursor here, this intersection. It is too close to the proposed LED sign based on its height. The distance, let me give you those distances between the two. The adjoining property distance is at 168 feet from the sign location to the property line here, and then across State Route 45 would be 325. The rezoning didn't create this need. There would still been a need here due to this, but obviously it set up the numbers to be much closer to this property line. The sign in question you can see on the aerial photograph in this location where my cursor is was approved by this board back in the early 1980s. As you'll notice, this was the site plan from the appeal case in 1981 showing the proposed sign back here at State Route 45. It was granted a setback variance at that time, was allowed to sit on the property line of the State Route 45. And you'll see, I don't know if that's legible, some of the notes from that case. The issue here is, and I'm going to skip to the sign itself, the church would like to take this reader board, which you see on the existing frame, and replace it with an LED sign. And at that height, that sets up the requirement to be so many feet from residential. They're proposing to leave it in this essentially same location so that it will clear TDOT's fence here and would be legible to State Route 45. The councilman did allude to the Madison Church of Christ, which is up at the corner, the large structure you see in the upper left zone. They have an LED. It actually, I believe, fronts on Gallatin Pike. There are some others further east of here that are grandfathered. This is the view from Old Hickory Boulevard looking towards State Route 45, their existing ground sign. You can see in the far background there the sign in question. And these are the adjoining properties, the multifamily to the east, and then the Madison Funeral Home to the west. Madison Funeral Home sign was also granted variance to locate there in the early 80s as well. This is, again, the sign in question, and then a view to the east of that sign looking at that multifamily that was the recent rezoning, and then the apartments. You can see those in the background here.
Joey, before we get started, can you talk to us about the difference between an LED sign and this message, multi-message signs, which they call it, an electronic message sign, as far as the code is concerned?
Yeah, there's functionally no difference between them. The sign code restricts LEDs in certain zone districts based upon how far from residential, and it's a function of heights. But whether it's a message board or a the zoning code does allow a time and temp LED sign to be there as a matter of right. But
Because that's what most people consider an LED sign.
Used to. It's evolved now. The technology has changed such. Most folks, when we see applicants from the contractors sitting here at WitSign and other sign companies, most folks are doing these message boards here. They're still subject to restrictions of the message can't change but every 8 seconds. There's no flashing or strobing or like Times Square. It can't sort of race
Spin
in. So, yeah, but we do. That's sometimes in these on an enforcement side is a big selling point of these, but in Nashville we don't permit any of those types of video displays in this zone district. The only place we can do that is in the Opryland area. That zoning does allow full motion video.
Although I don't think they've ever done that.
Yeah, no. So these are more and more prevalent that you see. The council went through, the date escapes me recently, I'd say in the last 3 or 4 years, and amended the sign code to allow them in certain districts so long as they're so many feet away from residential based on the height. And that's where this comes into play here, is this distance from this sign to the residential.
Joy. This is not a billboard, so it's not restricted by a different distance from an
correct
adjacent digital.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Enjoy the code that I have is not recent enough to have 1732-50 G2B. Mine stops at G.
Okay.
And I don't know if you.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that is, or.
Let me just read that briefly into the.
Can I get a new code?
Certainly. Well, that code is also available online, free of charge.
I don't have a connection here.
But I'll yes, sir, I understand. I'll get that hooked up to you. This section got renumbered when this dropped in, but section G2B says, it is strangely enough captioned under prohibited signage. I'm not sure that's where it should be. Hopefully in some future housekeeping amendment of the zoning text we'll move it where it belongs. But under prohibited signs it says that LED properties in G2, signs with any copy graphics digital displays that change messages by electronic or mechanical means other than tri-face billboards shall be permitted, and it lists out 6 zone districts, this being one of them in CS. Unless the following requirements are met. And then 2B, it says the height of the sign must be above 4 feet, shall be set back an additional 25 feet from agricultural or residentially zoned property. For example, a sign between 5 and 6 feet in height shall not be less than 150 feet from any residential or agricultural property. The matrix there is basically you've got to be, if it's set on the ground like a monument sign or it went up 4 feet tall, it's got to be 100 feet from residential. And then for every foot you go up, it's got to be 25 feet back. As you start getting up, it has to be further from residential. But that's the code section which they're appealing. The Councilman alluded to, obviously, besides his support, we did receive letters from the Madison Chamber, and that's the letters I have with us. I'm going to pass around too. The church submitted a little clearer elevation of the existing sign out there. It's a little better than mine, and I'll pass that along to you as well.
And it's the height of the LED portion.
I'm sorry.
It's the height of the message board or the whole sign.
One's a function of the other. They would like to replace the reader board, which you'll see on here, with the LED, and at that height it has to be
right. Okay.
Ms. Huey will be passing down the color. I believe you see a black and white copy of this photograph. This may be a little clearer. The view in that photograph is from the east. I don't have a shot from that side face. In the record that's being passed to you is viewing toward Gallatin Pike. The LED board needs to be repaired, and I think that's what prompted the sign.
It's the same picture.
We have a color picture.
Okay. And you have some elevations. When I turn over the applicant, I'll come get those, some proposed elevations for this, the sign. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant. You'll have 10 minutes to present your testimony to the board.
Good afternoon, committee. My name's David Yates. I'm a deacon with the church. And as you see, we attempted to first contact the DOT representative and see if we could get anything done with the 6-foot fence with 3 strands of barbed wire. We told them at our expense we would do anything we could to get that lowered or removed and make it where we could be within the requirements of the sign. And Mr. Burl Tidwell came back and said, because that is controlled access road, that there's nothing that could be done about the 6-foot fence. He did say we could remove the barbed wire, but the 6-foot fence had to remain because of that designation of the road. So then it became apparent we needed to appeal, and we've done that, as you know now. And we visited businesses all up and down East Old Hickory Boulevard, from the 100 block up through the 300 block. You can see everybody we made contact with was fully in agreement with what we were doing and very positive, and we had all positive feedback. There were a few businesses we knocked on the door, and there was a communications barrier, a Hispanic restaurant. They couldn't give us a lot of information who they were. It was a property management company that they were dealing through, and so we weren't sure who the owner was exactly on a couple of them. But again, you see our signatures from various and addresses and business names on there from the cover letter that we took around and just said, we just would like your name on here if you would not be in opposition to what we're trying to do. And everybody, again, every single person was positive, and the pastor and a couple other folks went around to the residences, and again, all positive feedback. We did not have a single person that gave us any verbal opposition to what we were doing. Pastor, you want to add some things there? This is Ben Williams. He represents Witt Sign Company. Witt Sign Company is who did the drawings that are in your folder. Witt has, proposed to take the existing sign, which they put up in 1981, and take the existing structure and redo it. It would be the most cost-effective and effective way to communicate to the neighborhood what we're trying to communicate through an LED sign.
The sign that you see right there was actually one of the first Panaflex faces that was put in Nashville in 1981, and that structure has actually been the same one since then. So now it's 2013. So it's due for an update, one way or other, and it's the 21st century. And so that's what they're trying to do, is just keep up with the times and a way to, communicate to the community what their church is doing and things like that, and going out. Of course, I know that they keep the same message on the sign all the time because they're not able to change it at all because it doesn't have any track to put up new letters to show anybody what they're doing. So they just keep the same message up there. So, being able to change the messages from inside the church and not having to send anybody out there is going to be nice for them, and so anything you can do to help them do that would be nice. So that's what they're asking for.
On a monthly basis, we have things like open mic night for Christian artists that want to come in and praise the Lord. We have a pancake breakfast for needy once a month. We have a Ruby's Pantry, and we reference all these things in the folder that we gave you. And we've got other things that we've done in the past and other things that we plan in the future, and it's such an effective tool to be able to show. There's 22,000 cars a day, by the way, past that back portion of our property. That's 22,000 plus eyeballs that potentially could see a message that is something that they need. And if it's a stop smoking class or dietary class or whatever we've got going on, if they're needy and need help with Ruby's Pantry, we pass out again food on a weekly basis there. So it's just in a very effective way for us to communicate what we do as a part of the fabric of this community.
Anything further to add?
I am, Mr. Chairman, thank you for seeing our case today, and thank you, board members. My name is Pastor Wayne Long. I am the pastor of the Boulevard Seventh-day Adventist Church. One of the things that we wanted to make sure that the community knew was that this is for a nonprofit organization. We're not seeking to make any money off of this sign. It is merely just to let people know what services we have to give, so that way we can better serve those in need of these services. And in several cases, when we talk with individuals that we have signatures for, they were very happy to know that we were doing things such as parenting seminars and things like that, so that way the community could be a better, we could make the Madison community as best as we could make it, help make it. So, and everyone was very, very thankful that we were doing the things that we're doing, and we just want to thank you for, again, taking the time out to listen to this case for us.
This is the existing sign is going to be replaced in its entirety, the upper part as well. Am I right? But only the lower part will be, the reader board will be the...
Just the faces.
Excuse me?
Just the faces in the top portion will be replaced. Like I said, they've been there since 1981, so they'll just be replaced. The cabinet, none of the structure actually will be replaced.
So that's illuminated now?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, the top portion, the ID up on top, will be replaced, and then the letterboard that you see below that will be the LED portion.
Is it illuminated all night, or is it?
It would be illuminated all night, and the system automatically dims things down as soon as the sun goes down, so this thing is not, annoyingly bright in the evening because it's got an automatic dimmer on it, so it adjusts itself to the light conditions.
Joe, as I understand it, that is a requirement of the code, correct? Is they have a certain number of lumens that they have to adhere to?
There is a brightness standard that the code sets upon.
There's a certain amount of foot candles and everything.
It is. I'm not an electrical engineer, but yes, we actually have a machine that measures those.
I just want everybody to be clear about the fact that they're held to a certain standard.
Any other questions? We'll close the public hearing. Joy?
We'll close the public hearing on case 25. Thank you, Jim.
I'd like to start off by commending Councilman Pridemore and this church, the Boulevard Seventh-day Adventist Church. Signs are controversial. They divide communities often. Communities unified here. We have lots of letters of support. We have lots of people here. This seems to be good for the neighborhood. I'd also like to kind of commend them on the steps that they follow. They just didn't say, we want a sign because TDOT won't let us. They called TDOT and they said, at our expense, we'll lower the fence so we won't have to have this variance. And TDOT basically said no. And so that's why they're here. That's a real hardship. TDOT, the rules are their rules, and so the reason that they are here is because that fence and the fence blocks where the sign could be. So I believe they've met all of our standards for getting this sign.
Any other discussions?
I concur. You want to throw a motion?
How about a motion?
Get it.
Go for it. Motion, David?
I move that we approve case 025 for the Boulevard Seventh-day Adventist Church, to allow them to have a LED sign, that they meet the requirements of a hardship based on the TDOT fence being 6 feet, and the sign would be blocked, and therefore to be able to adjust this sign and put the sign up at a certain height, it falls into, it would be blocked if we weren't able to grant this hardship if it was lower to the ground.
And I think the public good.
And what?
The public good. We've stayed on that before.
Yeah, and the public good too.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay, case is approved on a vote of 5-0. With that, the Board of Zoning Appeals is adjourned today. Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, how long has that church been there?